Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Nos encontramos nuevamente en un nuevo capítulo de nuestra sección Capital Humano en su medio de comunicación especializado Capital Digital. Hoy nos encontramos en el Deep Biotech Investment Summit 2025, un encuentro que reúne a inversores, emprendedores y a los actores relevantes del ecosistema en un contexto de cómo se puede acceder al Venture Capital. Y para ello tenemos hoy como entrevistado a uno de los primeros conferencistas, charlistas, que compartió su experiencia y su información con nosotros. Tenemos hoy acá en la tribuna de Capital Digital a Chris Wake. Chris, how are you today?
I am great. And yourself?
I'm pretty good. Thank you very much. So, have you been in Chile before, Chris, or is your first time?
This is my first time in Chile.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
And did you take a look around, maybe in Santiago, Concepcion?
A little bit in Santiago, yesterday, in fact. Yeah.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Because when did you arrive?
Just a few days ago.
A few days ago.
Yeah.
That's great.
Fresh.
And fresh? That's great. and you have another experience, maybe in another country, Latin America?
Just in Central America.
Central America?
So
Which country?
I have been through Costa Rica a number of times. My wife and I actually got engaged in Costa Rica
Oh yeah?
a number of years ago.
That's good.
But I've traveled all around the world, and South America was a void that I needed to fill. So this was a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, of course. So did you came directly from New York to
Yes.
Chile?
Yep.
How was the flight? That's good?
It's long.
It's a long? Yeah, it's a long way? Yeah.
Yeah, sleeping on an airplane is its own special experience.
Very good, very good. And tell me, Chris, we want to know you better because
Sure.
our audience is very interested to know you. So I don't know if you can share some information with us. Maybe you can tell us where you're from, where did you born, and when you study, why you start to in this amazing industry about the about the entrepreneur and ecosystems and all that. If you can share with us.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I was always a tinkerer, I suppose. So my parents would say that I took things apart rather than build them. So I took apart the family camcorder and the VHS at one point, and took apart a TV and a number of things. And always knew I wanted to start companies. Always wanted to kind of be an entrepreneur. I went and studied undergrad or university at Northwestern, studied engineering. I technically dropped out of engineering. I don't know if the educational part of it was for me, but the actual engineering aspect was. So I always kind of continued coding and working on random things. I left school. I got a really wise piece of advice from a professor who told me, if you ever want to start a company, learn sales, because ultimately as the CEO of a company, you're always selling, whether you're selling to customers, you're selling to investors, you're selling to employees that are going to join you on this crazy mission. And so I immediately went from school to learning how to sell, working in kind of enterprise IT solutions, always kind of hacking on side projects in my spare time. Included everything from a dating website, as most entrepreneurs are wont to do at some point in their career, to importing novelty doormats from around the world, to then eventually deciding I would go get an MBA as the natural kind of progression to start a company.
Okay.
Lo and behold, it was the most expensive networking event I've ever been to, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. So I spent a year at Oxford, got to travel around Europe and got my MBA. I moved then with about 15 other classmates to Silicon Valley.
Amazing. That's
where a number of them went into...
How was that experience in Silicon Valley?
It was great. I was out there for nearly a decade. There is no, I guess, equivalent that I've come across per se. It's just everything is, I guess, frenetic and moving at a very rapid pace. And just the kind of quality and the variety of conversations that you can have is pretty tremendous.
In that time, was your first entrepreneur, or you did it before? When you start your first like business?
So this was, I would say,
or when you was younger, maybe.
Yeah, when I was younger, I had started some things. This was kind of my first proper go at building a technology company.
Before the university? Or
This was after university. After university, I mean, I had started little things prior.
What was your first one? The first one, like sell? I don't know.
I mean, as a little kid, it was like
Yeah?
the lemonade stand.
Oh yeah, did you have it as well?
I had little things like
That's
that.
great. Yeah.
As an adult, I mean, I started the dating website. I imported doormats that were kind of novelty tied to like a cult classic movie.
In that time, what was the first like difficulties that you see in the first ones steps that you did? Was like, I don't know, maybe cross the borders for another countries, or like the advice, the marketing things. What was the first difficulty?
Yeah, I think customer development is a big one. It's, I don't want to say it's easy, but entrepreneurs
Like the
or
same?
people with that mindset are always coming up with ideas. And I think the hard part is taking that idea and translating it to something that customers want. And so understanding and putting yourself in the shoes of your customers and being able to translate the features that you create into the value that they're looking for is something that I learned through what I would classify as just failures, trial and error, ultimately, that kind of led me to that realization.
When you start, so after that, well, we talk about it. But when you start with Atypical Venture, how start to grow up, how appear, you did it with another people. You was founder, co-founder, or how start the idea
So
and what it is as well.
Sure,
please.
sure. So I was in the Bay Area. This is kind of an important piece. I was in the Bay Area for about 10 years.
Okay.
I worked on building and scaling frontier ventures. So I worked at a satellite company. I was the first employee and head of operations, putting small shoebox-sized satellites in orbit. We went from 0 to space in 12 months with 3 satellites. We then launched a further 65 over the following couple of years.
For what use that settles?
Signal intelligence.
Oh,
So they would be used for ship tracking, so commercial vessels across the oceans, airline tracking, so tracking planes as they're transiting the globe, and then high fidelity weather data.
Amazing.
So very kind of cutting edge, very interesting. I got to book rockets. I traveled the world with a radio test kit to figure out where to drop antennas to talk to space, and did a lot of really interesting things. When I left that, I would say that I was single-threaded. I was just focused on that. When I left, I then became multi-threaded. And so I started working with companies working on autonomous vehicles, companies working on computer vision for geospatial data, companies working on AI chipsets, and a number of kind of other frontier ventures. And through that, I got really kind of close with a venture fund in the Bay Area.
So it's very variable. You have they have many uses.
Yeah, it's very varied. I became an entrepreneur in residence with this venture fund in the Bay Area. While I was with them, I ended up making the personal decision to move from the Bay to New York. And when I got to New York, I intended to start a company, specifically in cybersecurity. And at that point, I started getting outreach from a lot of deeply technical founders looking for people like me that had my experience. They wanted my advice.
Of course.
And at the end of the conversation, it would kind of go, oh, and by the way, I see that you're connected to venture capitalists in the Bay Area. Can you put me in touch so I can get an investment?
Of course.
And so it became very clear that innovation happens everywhere. And frankly, there's a need for people to have kind of some of the business building experience that I could bring to the table, but also to have access to capital.
Correct.
And so it was, how can I marry these two things and create something that gives them what they need and also is something fulfilling for me? So, I'm a venture capitalist, but it feels like play to me. Like
we can say that was the moment that you start to take a look about the capital venture, like some important industry or like some important work or for start to do it.
Yeah, I think it was the realization, again, that innovation happens everywhere and that there's a need for more capital going to things that could be considered literal and figurative moonshots. The things that could put a dent in the universe and improve the human condition. I think those are generally hard problems, and we can put more capital and resources behind those ventures.
Well, in your talk, you address several key themes. What do you think are the biggest opportunities and challenge for early stage founders today?
One of the things I mentioned was the hardest part of being a founder. Starting a company is an unnatural act. To start a company, you believe that you are the sole person on the face of the planet who can solve this particular problem that you have identified.
Of course.
And you go at it. And that's a tough thing to do. It's especially tough in kind of frontier tech where people can tell you you're crazy or tell you you're wrong all day, every day for a long period of time. Crazy is just a numbers game. So the more people believe the thing that you're saying, that you're doing, the less crazy it sounds. And so for founders, I think the hardest thing is just kind of managing what's in between your two ears and your own mental state. And so it kind of comes down to the willingness to kind of push forth and to be receptive to what other people are saying, but not to let it dissuade you if you have true conviction that what you're doing is right.
Of course.
And that it will come to fruition.
Perfect. And how works Atypical Venture? How works? How can some entrepreneur in science or in those topics that you used to work, how can they do it? How can they contact Atypical?
So, the easiest way to say a little bit about who we are and what we're about is atypical.com. That's our website. We have some information and just some kind of our way of being, our ethos becomes very clear through that.
Okay.
And
which areas the maybe the interesting people, the audience that is going to hear this interview, and maybe the many entrepreneurs in science or maybe in other topics, if they are interested, what can they do? Like jump in the website and or take a mail you maybe?
Yeah.
Or what can they do?
So I'd say two things. Atypical.com is a great resource to learn about our ethos, and you can submit directly through atypical.com. I think secondarily, I've written a blog post specifically on the power and the value of cold emailing. And so I'm a huge fan of a very well-articulated cold email. You can email me directly, chris@atypical.com. We invest across atoms, bits, and cells, and we say that we invest in plausible science fiction. So truly, if you are at the frontier of what sounds crazy, but will ultimately be reality, we want to hear from you.
Perfect. What is your perception about the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Chile? Maybe you don't have met closely, but you have some idea. What do you think about it?
I think there's no better time than now to be building in Chile and LATAM more broadly as well. I think that ultimately you have all of the key things that we tend to look for. So you have the human capital and kind of educational research backgrounds. You have the infrastructure to build, including lab spaces and compute and all the things you traditionally need. You have access to non-dilutive capital through strong government programs that allow you to kind of put more money to work in a non-dilutive fashion behind those ventures. And I think that given the prevalence of things like Zoom and Google Meet, like you can connect with folks like myself that sit in places that are not here who still want to invest in the best and brightest no matter where they sit.
We have the digital capital as well, the media.
Yes, exactly.
So. That's great. So far that you've been here, there is any Chilean startup that you maybe are interested in, or maybe somebody is consulting to you?
There's definitely a handful of things that I've heard that sound fascinating that I would love to learn more about.
Really?
Unfortunately, no one's told me the name of those companies. They just give me a teaser, so I'm left wanting. But yes, I've heard of a handful of companies, just even within the past 2 days, that sound absolutely fascinating.
That's great. And do you have just maybe some advice to the different startups that they are looking for some help, some venture capital? What can they do? Maybe you can recommend it something about your experience as well.
It's a very big question. The practical thing. So investors look for lines, not dots. So try to start relationships early. The crazier the thing is that you're doing, or the more out there and frontier, the longer the time horizon within which you should be talking to investors early to get them comfortable with that. And you want to show them progression. So this notion of kind of up and to the right traction, and you're just executing at a much higher degree, like much faster than anybody else. And that kind of builds this notion of inevitability. And I think that investors really look for almost inevitability. So whether or not I give you capital, this thing will become a reality and you're going to do it. And I think that that also speaks to just grit and determination. Two things that I think Chilean entrepreneurs have in spades. So grit and determination is something I've gotten again and again just through the conversations being here the past few days. And I think that that will serve them well. Now, if you could just package it in the right way for that investor mindset, magic can happen.
So what do you think is possible, for example, that one startup, a very good one that complete all your terms, obviously, can get directly with you? Or what do you think, for example, about the hubs? They have to like ask for some hub, or any startup can get into conversation with you where you team just directly?
Yeah, so for us, I mean, you can get in touch with us directly. I will say we invest in things that are post-product, but can be pre-market. What I mean by that is, we invest at the frontier of the frontier, and we do it early. So pre-seed and seed stage, we're happy to be the first institutional check, but we need to be able to diligence the thing. So I crassly say that we don't invest in slideware or kind of, two people with a slide deck and a dream. We invest in like products that you cannot help but build yourself. And so if we can diligence it, we can get comfort with the technology and we can understand the mentality and the mental models that kind of those founders work with. And we feel like there's a good working relationship. We're on board.
We know that US have a lot of experience about this area in the entrepreneur and ecosystem area. But what can you, if you can give some advice to the emerging venture capitals in Latin America, maybe some recommendations about how they can maybe get approach to the startups, maybe what we see the entrepreneurs or the startups, we see that they're a little bit far away from us. What do you think about it, and if you have some advice about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things that I've seen in some of the most successful startup ecosystems. One is a really strong employee stock option plan, which sounds simple, but ultimately you need owners in these things. These things are going to be big, successful businesses, and you have to believe that. And I think with that, you need to have ownership from the people that are on the ground building it. Okay. Part of that value is just their willingness to kind of put in the extra hours and put in the work to make it a success. And if they feel like owners, they will do more to make it a success. But I think also for just ecosystem building in general, there's no better way to seed the ecosystem than to have a successful outcome where it's not just one founder that reaps all the rewards and may start another company, but it's hundreds of people within that company who reap the rewards, and you start hundreds of new companies because people have the financial freedom to go and to build and to kind of pursue those passions.
Of course. Chris, do you have maybe a main idea that you want to share with us, with our audience, with all the people of the Bio ecosystem or the Chilean ecosystem? Like one main idea that maybe do you think that's going to like help us, or like take a look about you?
I would say there's no better time than now to build. I think that Chile has all of the things that you need to build. Take advantage of folks like myself that are interested in investing in the best and the brightest wherever they sit. And I think that it's managing that internal beast and making sure that you feel confident in what it is you're doing and continuing to persist and pursue. But yeah, it's gotten cheaper and easier to start deep tech companies. So go forth and build the crazy things.
This kind of events are works for you. We have to make many ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Please do.
Yeah, of course. We're going to invite you, definitely.
Yeah. that'd
Thank
be
you
great.
very much, Chris,
Thank you
for
I
this
appreciate it.
interview.
This is wonderful.
It was a very pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, bueno chicos, nosotros finalizamos la entrevista con Chris Way, quien nos vino a conversar respecto a la importancia y la relevancia del Venture Capital aquí, en el contexto de Deep Biotech Investment Summit 2025. Le agradecemos a Chris. Thank you very much, Chris. Y bueno, muchas gracias por la audiencia y los dejamos conectados a las próximas entrevistas. Muchas gracias y nos estamos viendo pronto. Chau, chau.